Welcome to the Be Bold podcast. I'm Beth Whitman. Today's conversation is with Sabrina Seher, also known as Super Sabrina. Before I tell you a little bit about Super Sabrina and our conversation, just a quick reminder that if you're new to the podcast, I encourage you to go back to previous episodes where I highlight courageous women doing extraordinary things. I've been fortunate to speak with a wide range of amazing women, including TV host and travel expert Samantha Brown, Pauline Fromer of the Fromer Guides, Nicole Davis, who's a two-time Olympic medal winner, professional musicians including Laura Love and Naomi Wachira, as well as chefs, Buddhist teachers and practitioners, and so many more. You can find all the episodes at beboldpodcast.com, or you can subscribe wherever you find your favorite podcasts. By subscribing, it's like hitting the like button or giving it a thumbs up. You're telling podcast providers that this is something of value, and then it helps other people find the podcast. So thank you in advance for doing that. Now, Sabrina. Sabrina is a pretty special human being. I met her when I was running the Seattle Quadzilla last fall, and you can hear about my experience running those 4 marathons in 4 days in episode number 33. Sabrina was also running the Quadzilla, and I think there were a total of maybe 35 or so of us. But Sabrina, as you'll hear in our conversation, really stood out for me. She was saying hello to a lot of people on the course. She was having fun. She was jumping around. She was basically doing everything you don't do if you want to conserve your energy in order to run 26.2 miles. But we chatted during one of the races, and then we became Facebook friends, as you do. So naturally, I started seeing her posts, and I noticed that it seemed like she is always running a race. And newsflash, she is. She has given me new perspective on what it means to be a runner/marathoner. The typical thinking is that you need 16 weeks of training to prepare for a marathon. And yeah, that is technically true, particularly for first-time marathoners or someone looking for a personal record or a Boston qualifying time. But if you enjoy running, especially long distances, then why not run a Quadzilla? And for the record, there are a lot of these Quadzillas around the country. Or why not run 52 marathons in a year like Sabrina did a couple of years ago? Now, just to put Sabrina into perspective, this is the first week of April, and she's already run the following races this calendar year. She ran the Andy Fritz Memorial New Year's Marathon on January 1st, the Bridle Trails 50K on January 13th, the Seattle Locks Marathon on January 29th, the Rocky Raccoon 100 Miler on February 3rd, the Birch Bay Marathon on February 11th, the Rock and Roll New Orleans Marathon on March 4th, the Prairie Spirit 100 Miler on March 24th, and the Sporty Divas Easter Marathon on April 1st. So yeah, she's out there running a lot. My next marathon isn't until the end of July. Well, I guess in all fairness, I am training to run my best time so I can get another shot at qualifying for the Boston Marathon. And Sabrina, the coach that she is, thinks that on the course I plan to run that I can shave off 5 to 10 minutes from my previous best, which is awesome, but would be awesome if I could do that. And it's great to know that somebody has so much confidence in me. In addition to all these marathons, Sabrina owns Super Studio 253, and 253 is the local area code where she is, by the way, in Tacoma, Washington. The studio offers all sorts of classes as well as run training. She's also the race director for the Cascade Super Series marathons and half marathons, and she manages a group of pacers, and you'll learn what those are in our conversation. At first, you might think that Sabrina is all about Super Sabrina, but she is not. She's about a super you. Her motto is find your super, and she really means it. She wants people to be their better selves, to dig deep and discover what it is that can make them super. And her energy output and desire to make you better is quite infectious. As you'll hear in this conversation, she has not had a straight path to wellness and success. Her life has not been perfect, but she emerged from some dark places only to come bursting out so that she could set an example for her 2 children and so that she could be an inspiration to others. I observed and was the recipient of just a little bit of that energy during the Seattle Quadzilla, but I got a huge dose of it during our conversation. And really, that energy, her infectious energy, has really stuck with me. She's the kind of person that you want to surround yourself with, and she kind of gives you faith that there are great people in the world. You just need to know where to look for them and to be open. With that, please enjoy this pretty special conversation with Sabrina Seher. It's kind of crazy you just did a marathon this morning.
That's not crazy to me. That's normal.
It is normal. It's crazy to a lot of people. And the kind of crazy thing to me about it is that a lot of people would be like flat on their back, either gorging on pizza and beer after a marathon, or they would be so exhausted or so wiped out. They would just be, yeah, Beth, we're going to have to record some other time. Like, you gave me no indication.
Oh, no.
Did you even know you were doing a marathon this morning? Okay.
Yeah, I just had to be like, I have to be back for Beth. Okay.
Well, it's funny because when we set this time up, you gave me no indication like, oh, yeah, I might be a little out of it or something after the marathon. But no, you're just here and you're ready to rock, aren't you?
Yeah.
Except you got blue tape on your toes.
That is not even from running. Oh, it's from my work shoes.
Oh, it's from your work shoes.
Yeah.
Your work is not running?
I just started another thing that...
Let's talk. What can you talk about?
There's lots of layers to me. So I have a degree in biology and chemistry. I was pre-med, but I didn't go to medical school. I got married and had kids. So now I just started with the pharmaceutical company. So I'm going to do that during the day. I'll teach in the mornings.
Teach what?
I have a studio. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you knew I had a fitness studio.
I do, but I want you to tell me for listeners so exactly what you're doing.
So I have a fitness studio, which is absolutely amazing. I love teaching, inspiring people. I've had that a little over a year. I've gotten my staff just dialed in. They're the most incredible, amazing people. So we've kind of divvied up who has what strengths. Whether I'm kind of the intensity girl, I do HIIT, which is high intensity interval training, the kickboxing, and the whole run program. I mean, all of us can teach everything. I teach the bar classes if need be. Then I have a gal who's in charge of like the body pump, which is lay mill coordinated to fun, upbeat music, body pump, so weights, barbells. And then we have like our gal who's in charge of bar classes.
So this is your studio.
Yes.
Why aren't you satisfied with having one job, which is running a studio?
Yeah.
Which is what most people would think, that you've got a studio, so you don't need another job, do you?
So I have a tendency to gravitate to things that need a little nursing. So I actually bought this studio from someone else. It wasn't as diverse. So I grabbed it up and just kind of played with it for a year and then got that rolling really strong. It's getting busy, found our strengths at the studio, and now it's dialed in. And I don't have to be as hands-on. I kind of like to work from the ground up, build it, and then have people who can be under me, who can float it along.
And the studio is in Tacoma, is that right?
Yes, it is in Tacoma.
And what's it called?
It's Super Studios 253.
Okay. And you're known as Super Sabrina?
Yes, but everyone can be super. Everyone's like, oh, you're super. I'm like, yeah, but that's not it. It's about everyone else. Like, find your super is our little slogan. Whether it's running or HIIT or kickboxing or, we have rowing too. So there's just so much to play with. And it's just about getting your body to move in all ways so that you're healthy.
Gosh, I do have so many questions for you, but before I get into that, I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to take off my shoes because I always take off shoes when I walk into somebody's house, and for some reason I was like so excited by your bunnies and
my bunnies and my dogs
and your dogs. I'm going to take off my shoes. Okay, so now I'm more comfortable, and then I'm going to fold my legs up and be like a yoga pose here.
Yeah, you do what you need to do.
Yeah, thanks. Before I get into a bunch of questions, I want to tell listeners really how I met you and kind of explain the experience from my perspective of how I met you, because you have no idea. So we ran the Quadzilla, and the Quadzilla, I've spoken about this on the podcast before. The Quadzilla is 4 marathons in 4 days, and the Seattle Quadzilla is over Thanksgiving. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you run a marathon a day, which a lot of people think is incredibly stupid or crazy or whatever. But I did it. And so on that first marathon on Thursday, I don't have a memory of you on that particular day, but I remember you on the second marathon, which I think was like down in Kent, Washington or so. I think it was in the town of Kent. And then I started seeing, I was like, oh, there's a bunch of people here that are also doing this. Because now I've seen people like 2 days in a row. And so I remember seeing you there and some other people. And then the third marathon on Saturday. And I noticed, too, that you were high-fiving and really smiling and chatty with a lot of people. So I was like, oh, this gal knows a lot of people here. She's kind of a magnet. I just kind of noticed that. And I didn't know what was going on. And then I noticed you were, during the marathon, you're jumping and laughing and dancing and, like, again, high-fiving with people. And all I'm thinking is, this is my freaking third marathon in 3 days. And this gal is like, hi, everybody. Oh, my God. So great to see you. Like,
pretty much.
And I know. And I'm thinking, she should really hold on to her energy for, this is what's going on in my head, right? I'm like, she's like wasting a lot of energy, like by being so nice. And then, and of course, I think towards then we started chatting because you were like, you said something about, I'm just taking bathroom breaks just so I can have a break. Like, like going in the honey
bucket. Give my legs a little break.
Exactly. And then you blew past me, and I know you were at least 10 minutes faster than me on that last one. But it was kind of a funny lesson for me, because here I am. She better hold on to her energy. She's like wasting all her energy. And then you were like so solid at the end, and it made no difference. Like you just blew it out of the water. And I know you did really well on the fourth marathon too, the Seattle marathon. You probably weren't an hour ahead of me, but you were probably 40 minutes ahead of me on that.
You save it for the last day.
Okay. Well, guess what? I'll know for this year.
Yeah, I've run many of them.
Okay. Many Quadzillas.
Yes.
How many?
8 or 9. I should know my count right, but I don't.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, anyway, so that was my experience of you, and kind of a lesson for me. Well, now I just got a new lesson that you save it for the end. At least I didn't go all out. I knew enough not to go all out on those early ones, but it was really funny because I thought she's having a lot of fun. Yeah. And that was a good lesson for me too. And not that I wasn't out there, like not that I was taking it so seriously, but I just thought it was really great to see you taking the time to like encourage other people. So that's my impression of you. And then I saw your Facebook. We became Facebook friends. And then I started seeing this stuff come across my Facebook feed of you, and I'm going, holy mackerel, what is this chick doing? Like, this is unbelievable. Like, she's doing another marathon? What? She's doing another 100-miler? Yeah. She's traveling to do, I've got to talk to her for the podcast. So that is long-winded way of my impression of you and kind of how I experienced your energy. And I wouldn't even say I was on the receiving end of it, but I was noticing it, and I was noticing your interaction.
Infectious.
It is infectious. Yeah. It is.
So I think, I'm a run coach too. People really get in their heads. I can't do this. This is hard, blah, blah, blah. There's just so much mental chatter, and it's like the devil and the angel. Which one are you going to listen to? So I try and be like in your face, like, hey, be happy. Hey, this is your choice. Be out here. Have fun. Another one of my mottos is have fun or go home. I mean, you're out there. You're going to be out there for a while. It's 26.2 miles. You better make it a party. So that's how I approach it.
Well, how do you, as a coach, or just as a friend, or just as a human being, it's one thing to say to someone, hey, be happy or go home or, have fun with this. But how do you really get it into somebody that it really is just all about the mental, or that so much of it, let's say 80% of it, is about the mental?
On day one of training, I say, what's your most important muscle? And they're all, oh, my quads or something. I'm like, nope, it's your brain. That'll be your best friend or your worst enemy. So whatever's on the schedule, you cannot look at it and be like, oh my gosh, I cannot do it. You have to look at it and be like, okay, I got this. I can do it. Whether you need to slow down, take a walk break, there's deviations you can have off of that. But once you come in, you're mentally defeated once you say, I can't. So those are not good words to use, as I can't, I won't, I shouldn't. It's just, you can reframe your mind around things, and it's just that practice. So we do newsletters every week, and we really talk about the mental piece. Yeah, we give okay, here's your nutrition tip, here's your hydration, here's your how to dress. Yeah, those are all great tools, but the mind is the most powerful tool.
How do you train your mind?
Oh boy, it's been a process.
Tell me about it.
Oh my gosh.
What is your process, or what has your process been over the years?
I've had an interesting road, right? And then always you're just faced with these things. It's like, well, the only thing you can control is your attitude around it. That is really, truly the only thing you can control. So if if I don't have the good attitude, if I don't have a positive outlook, I'm not saying I don't ever have a day where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is too much, or I'm not feeling amazing. It's like, well, what can I control in this situation? Things are thrown at you. Situations change. Life situations change.
Can you talk about your road?
My road. Oh man, it can go way back.
Well, let's go back.
Go back.
Yeah, if you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I think it's because we all have a road,
yeah.
Right? And I think, and really so much of what this podcast is about is to show that we do all have roads. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people get stuck somewhere and don't know how to get past it. But when they hear stories of other people, then it makes a big difference.
That's the meat. Yeah, I think that some people, well, I shouldn't assume, but maybe they see this end product, and there's no end product here. But like you said, like, okay, where's this girl come from? She's happy. She's just throwing down marathons like it's nothing, right? That's more towards the end. That's current. But you go way back. I mean, I was not always a healthy person. I was pretty self-destructive.
Where'd you grow up?
Outside Chicago. Yeah. So let's say I was self-destructive.
Addiction issues?
I had an eating disorder.
Okay.
Yeah. That's pretty self-destructive.
Yeah.
That's how I dealt with life then. And I dealt with that for a long time. And it wasn't until I had kids, I finally was like, oh my gosh, I'm responsible for other people. Get my head out of my rear end. And let's start working towards life. And then it still was a long process because you're taking care of other people, right? So in a way, I put myself to the side. And this is where I see I could have done a lot better. And it wasn't until I was 30 that I really was like, oh my gosh, I need to take myself back. My kids were a little older, so I did start running. And literally each step I would tell myself, this is me taking myself back. This is me taking...
you mean by taking control of yourself?
Yeah, just finding myself again. I mean, I really, as a mom, as a wife, I had just let myself go. Well, you probably wouldn't have looked at me and said I let myself go. But, I'm a pretty driven person. I gave up going to medical school. I moved away from my family.
Did you do all of that for your husband and for your family then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I moved from Chicago to Miami to LA to San Francisco and then up to the Seattle area within 5-6 years. So it was really...
Was that all with your family, husband and kids?
Yeah. So it was a lot of moving, a lot of changing. Like, it takes a while to get settled. So you're trying to find friends, trying to find your identity, and you're like, oh, I'm just kidding. And I didn't have a career then.
Was your husband in the military?
No, he owns his own business. Yeah. So that was about 30 I started running. And I came from a background with kickboxing and boot camp. So my body was muscularly strong enough to handle the running.
Interesting.
That's the big piece most people miss. Yeah.
So this background in kickboxing, was that from your youth?
That's just what I was doing at that point in my life. I mean, going way back in my youth, my mom was great. She put me in everything. Soccer, jazz, tumbling, tap. I grew up next to boys. I played ice hockey, football, baseball, and I played softball, basketball, volleyball. I was on the dance team. So that's another piece, fast forwarding why I love the studio. I mean, I'm a mixed bag of a little of everything, and I love to throw that in there.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like you like that environment where you're in with a group of people.
Yeah.
Whether you're actually learning, that's the environment that you were in, that you grew up with, that you were learning in a studio environment. And so that's kind of a natural place.
Studio, team. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm all about the solo. Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a sister. Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Swim team did that for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have three brothers, but they're all so much older than I am that it was as if I was an only child when I got to my like early teens because they were out of the house already. So I wasn't ever in team sports and never understood, never had the value of that instilled upon me at that early age. So when I came to running later, for me, it's all about walking out the door by myself and going out there for 3 or 4 hours and being in total heaven because I'm used to being by myself, you know? So it's different than kind of the studio aspect.
I do like some of the solitude of running, though.
Okay, yeah.
It's a balance.
It is. But
especially because at the studio, I'm in front of everyone talking, motivating. It's great, but then sometimes okay, here's a surprise too. I'm an extroverted introvert. People are like, you're not an introvert, but I have to retract and I have to like go, I could say my rabbit hole. I go in my room and I have to just kind of shut down because there's so much exertion. To
take it back then, so eating disorder, bulimia or anorexia?
Well, anorexia is too obvious, so then I had to go the other way for a while. Thought I was hiding everything. It's not very hideable, by the way.
Bulimia.
Yeah.
You're saying, okay.
Oh, yeah. All of it. I mean, and then I had to just get crazy gum surgery years later. So it haunts you for a little while. And then, just leading up past 30 and then starting to getting into running, we can go back to, but I had really bad food allergies I didn't know about. So when I was intaking more food I thought was better for me, a soy latte, an omelet, and all these other things that supposedly were good for me were making me very, very, very sick.
And you didn't even know that?
For a long time, I was getting migraines, and then I'd be throwing up. I'd lose my vision. I had heart palpitations. I had fatigue.
Did you think this was like a hangover from the bulimia stuff?
I haven't really researched any of that.
Okay. I don't even know, but I'm just thinking like when you talk about throwing up from like actually feeling physically ill from food, the first thing that I thought of was like, well, gosh, maybe that's like my body telling me naturally, like purge this.
Oh, no, I finally got my food panel run and my naturopath was like, well, you are allergic to da-da-da-da-da.
What are you allergic to?
So whey. So I just avoid dairy, gluten. So I had really bad asthma too from all that inflammation, eggs, and then this weird one, amaranth.
Amaranth is it's a spice, isn't it?
It's like a grain. It's in a lot of things.
Yeah.
So once I cleaned that up, it was a few months until I felt better. But I mean, one of the Quadzillas I ran, I drove there and I just, boom, got the worst migraine. Pulled up, threw up, asked my friend to park the car, passed out, had him pin the bib on me. I started late, right? I took my medicine, started late. Everyone's like, where'd you come from? Because it's now the half marathoners, and marathon's way out there. And I was like, whatever. And I just made myself do it because if I didn't do day one, there's no Quadzilla. And somehow I still won.
Oh, my God, Sabrina.
Thankfully, no one faster showed up that year.
Oh, my God. That's crazy.
I think that gave me that bad history part of me really fueled me wanting to be better. I was so self-destructive and not happy, not healthy. I'm like, that is not the way to live. I can't return that. I can't get it back. But I can do something about it now, and I can show other people there's a better way of life.
What was the turning point? And maybe it wasn't a day or an instance, but what was the turning point or what was going on around that time where you realized that you didn't want to be that person, but you wanted to be somebody else?
It was my oldest daughter. Having a child really helped. So life's funny like that. Here's someone who never thought I wanted children, and I have 2 now. They're the loves of my life. But yeah, I really realized wow, okay, life is fragile. It can be gone in a second, and I need to just make some serious changes. And it was still a long road.
Were you still struggling with a food issue?
Oh, yeah.
When you had your daughter?
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially you're now talking. And it wasn't all like, oh my gosh, I'm so fat. There was other stuff involved. It's just how I dealt with my family at that time.
With your family of origin?
Yes.
Your parents?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. It was a non-ideal situation. I love them, but that's how I dealt with it.
Can you talk about any of those details?
So now looking back on it, it's interesting. So my dad has PTSD. So he's very unpredictable. He's kind of got the volatile personality. You don't know if he's going to really like love on you or hate on you, and you could be doing the same thing and it'll induce a different reaction. So it's pretty unpredictable, and he's paranoid, and he, like I say, you pick up on people's energies. Like I'm really energy sensitive, so I absorbed all that. Looking back, I see that. And then my mom, she was just trying to cope, bless her little soul. Yeah. She was kind of just aloof and checked out. So, they did the best in their situation. Totally respect that. But, I did what I did just as like a reactive type of behavior. So it's interesting now. I'm like, oh man, I see all of that now.
You see the dynamics.
Yeah. But while I was going through it, I was just, young, and just that was the only thing I thought I could control.
Do you think that being able to look back on it now is because you're a mom, or do you think it's because you're just in a healthier body and mind?
I think all of it. Yeah, definitely.
We're just evolving, aren't we?
Yeah,
we're
evolving, and that's just life too. I mean, life is this messy kaleidoscope of, everything. And I'll own my stuff. I don't usually talk about this stuff, but if it helps other people think about their lives or think twice about things in their life.
Well, I think it really helps to hear someone who's been through a struggle, because unless I think that there are people who have escaped issues, but when you do hear of someone else's struggle, we can relate to those kinds of things. And then when you see someone who is apparently successful or has found a healthier, it doesn't even like success, I'm sorry I even use that word,
it's relative
but it's
term.
Right, but it's just being of a healthier mind and body than you were yesterday, or last month or last year or 5 years ago. And I just think I think we are works in progress, and that we should all be on like a continuous improvement program. I think that's what it's all about. So again, I think it is important for people to hear that you have struggled, or that I have struggled, or had a difficult past, because then it gives people hope that they can come out of it well.
I think the hope is the beauty. If anyone can have any hope anywhere, I mean, don't ever give up, right? Just when you think, okay, I can't do this, or there's no more, there's always more. Yeah. There's always something. And what I like to tell people now is try and put yourself around people who will inspire you and bring out the better part of you. I mean, surround yourself with your tribe, right? Because people will bring you down. So now I'm pretty aware of that now. I had to still have some bumps along the road, past that 30 and going on. And it wasn't always from the exterior a beautiful process, but it was my process, and I will own it.
Mm-hmm. How old are you now?
39.
Okay.
Yay,
big 40 coming up.
Whoa.
I know, awesome.
Sometimes I look in the mirror, I'm like, wait a minute, I thought I was like 28.
Hey, you look it, so that's all that matters. So you're going through this process. You realize that you need to be a better person for your daughter. What are those steps? Like, what do you start doing?
Oh, boy. Definitely taking care of myself physically, right? Physical, emotional.
When did you find out about the allergies?
Oh, gosh, that was later. That was after I was running for a little bit. So it's probably closer to 32 or 33. And I suffered with bad asthma, too. And again, that mental thing, like, what's wrong with me? Did I work out too much? Did I not sleep enough? Did I do this? Did I do that? And then, well, now I'm not married now. He'd always make me feel so bad, or try to make, no one can make you feel bad, right? But he'd try and turn around like, well, there's just something wrong with you. And then you're sitting there like, oh gosh, what is wrong with me? So again, you surround yourself with people who are going to try and help you get out of tough spots in an encouraging and positive way.
So you started running, figured out some of this health issue stuff.
Yeah, and once I figured all those out, I mean, all of a sudden it's like someone took this huge veil off of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this how it could feel? I mean, I literally was getting sick, like vomiting sick, just shaking before pretty much every marathon. And I was just trying to eat more. Like, what's wrong? What's going to fix me? Oh, there it is. And then it was like, whew,
relatively simple fix. Yeah. I just got some blood work done recently, and it sounds like you're all set, but I had a gal on the podcast a couple months ago, and she's a Olympian and silver medalist, and she had recommended this guy, Chris Talley. I'll just say his name out loud. If anybody wants this information, I'm happy to provide it. And I'm going to put together an episode that's just me talking about my results. But he tests for about, I think, 200 different markers, including allergens. And then he kind of goes through this whole, it's like a 22-page document of all of the, all the returns on this, on your blood work. And the things that came up for me that I was floored about is that, one, I have like no testosterone, which I think is hilarious, because all of the things he was saying about testosterone, well, you don't have energy and you don't have this. I'm like, no, that's not me. Like, I bounce out of bed in the morning and I'm, pretty good to go. So can you imagine if I get that sorted out, I'll be,
oh my gosh,
I'll be super Sabrina. I could be following you.
Super you.
I know. I'll be super me. Absolutely. I'll be super me and be following you at least, to be tailing you on the marathons. But one of the things that I was floored by was my allergies. And I am mostly vegan, but I am severely allergic to casein, which is in dairy. So it's yogurt. So I stay away from most of that stuff. But somehow the antibodies were in my blood. So it's sneaking in from somewhere, maybe a protein bar or something that's got milk in it that I didn't even know. But I'm so excited to have these results. I just want, I want everybody to go get tested, because this was an expensive investment, but in the scheme of things, for the rest of my life, from the next 70 to 90 years of my life, this gives me a roadmap to be healthier. So that had to be a huge thing for you to, like you said, this big veil lifted. It's so important.
Yeah, I think people neglect those details. Even when I do the little nutrition clinics, I say, hey, keep your pH neutral. They're like, what? And why? And, especially women, well, have you had your blood panel done? Well, why would I do that? Well, just the mere foot strike is going to destroy your blood platelets, and women are at higher risk for anemia. And I've had it. It's pretty awful. You feel like you're running through quicksand and you can't breathe. So yeah, it's great that you did that. I mean, everyone should know their baseline. Everyone should know where they're at. I mean, that's information about yourself.
It is.
And it could save you. Like you said, it's an investment. Well, it could save you down the road. I mean,
yeah, literally.
Way down the road.
Yeah, literally. But also just when you put, people talk about healthcare is so expensive, right?
Yes.
It is expensive. My husband and I, we both pay for our own healthcare. But when you think about the investment of having your baseline, having your blood panels done,
it's priceless.
It is priceless because it means less money spent in health care or, drugs or whatever it is down the road.
Oh, yeah.
So critical.
Yeah.
Really critical.
It's kind of an epidemic.
When did you run, speaking of epidemics, when did you run your first marathon? Good transition there.
Oh, my gosh. When was that?
When you started running,
I think it was October of 2009. In Portland.
Okay. So Portland. It was shortly after you started running.
Yeah, it was. I went to visit my family in Chicago. It was February, and I remember oh gosh, where am I going to go kickboxing? So I just went for a run, and I thought I was superhuman. I ran 4 miles in 32 minutes, and I was like Rocky. What? What? And then I did Beat the Bridge, which is local, 5-mile run, and I did Sound and Arrows. And then I did the half marathon, and I went up to my friend who's a run coach. I said, hey, I think I'm going to run a marathon. She goes, you have I can't remember. It was 6 or 8 weeks. I'm like, oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Not really. But I made it happen. I went and ran 2 20-milers and I did it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So do you subscribe to the approach of, maybe it's just for beginning runners, but that you should take 4 months and you should do the 16-week training program for a marathon?
So the way I train people is you will do strength training before every run because I used to try and get people to do it on their own, and I didn't really believe them. So now we do 30 minutes of strength training before every workout.
Before every run?
Before every run.
Oh,
yeah.
Even if it's a 5-mile run?
Oh, yeah, I don't care. Even if it's 20. You're doing it, because then I know you're doing it. And we try and get like the hip mobility, we hit the glutes, the core, all these things. Because all day long, right, I could say, hey, Beth, lift that sternum, don't collapse. But if your muscles are not strong enough, you're not going to be able to hold that running form. So the stronger your muscles are, you're going to be able to hold yourself upright longer. And then your muscles will resist the breakdown, the demand of the running, the stronger they are. And so people who have gone through the training cycles a few times with me, they're like, oh, you're right. I recover faster. I feel better. Everything's just better. Strength training.
Do you only work with people through your studio, or?
I've done people from remote as well, gotten them to Boston qualify or run their first marathon. And
sign me up.
Yeah. It's a little more interesting for me. I'll take my little camera and just do a video. They're like, I don't know what this thing is you're talking about. I'm like, okay. And I'll have my kids video, whatever I need to do to get it over there. And I've sent people away like, here's a TRX, here's, this little ball, here's sliders. And then I'll just write workouts for them every week. Here you go.
Well, we'll talk about that offline. But I'm really intrigued because I qualified for Boston last year, but it's my goal to qualify this again this year.
You can do it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure I can.
Yeah.
I am sure I can.
Yeah.
And that's cool because I know that as I get older, I just started running not too long ago, in years, not decades. But I know as my Boston qualifying time, as I get older, the qualifying time gets longer. It's more time. So
supposedly more generous in your favor, but then you're getting older, so it's like
I know. But I've also heard that from the time you start running, you have 15 years of improvement before you start declining. And so I still have another 8 to 10 years of improvement ahead of me. That's the way I look at it.
Though.
Please just let me believe that.
No, I know. But why can't it be 30 years?
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, who's putting this limit? Like, someone told me once, you max out as an athlete at 35 and then it's all downhill. I'm like, who?
Said who?
Said who? Someone who decided to sit on the couch? Because I have crazy friends still like slaying it every weekend who are almost double my age. I swear.
True. Well, at least for me, believing that it's 15 years, I'm still on the early side of that. So
at the end of 15 years, we'll talk again.
We will talk again. 15. And then, exactly, I know. So you started running, started doing marathons, and then somehow leap forward 9 years or so, and you're training people. What was that transition? Like, what happened in there that you said, hey, I'm smart enough to be training people and I'm inspirational enough to be training people?
Yeah. So funny thing about me in college, I was pre-med or I was going to be a trainer.
Really?
Yeah. People would be like, okay, lady, okay.
So you already had that mindset.
Yeah, I love fitness. I always have. People started coming to me because they saw that I was having great success. And then I was asked to start coaching. So then that kept evolving. And when I do things, I just don't like, oh, okay, I'll just do this and I'll just hash this out. No big deal. You give me something. I'm like, well, that looks interesting. How can I do this better? That's just how I am. Let me just redo this whole program. Let me do some evaluation of how that went. Okay, what do we need to throw away? What do we need to do better? And watching people. Who got injured or what happened. So just kept refining the program and the way I coached. And I will always continue to do that. So it's a really fun process.
How many running clients do you have at any given time?
Oh my gosh. I don't know.
Because you had a lot of friends out on that Quadzilla. I know that.
I used to have groups as big as 75.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So I had a lot of help. That was interesting. And I used to do gait analysis for all of them and then training paces. So we'd have them do like a time mile. And then I'd give them all their training paces for 800s, long run, da-da-da-da-da. All in a little page. And then, their history. What were your past injuries? Do you have any now? And then my favorite thing is to ask them their motto, right? Because that's an important piece for people to go back to when they're in that dark place. Mile, whatever, 17 of their long run, I can't make it to mile 20. Well, what was your motto? Have fun or go home, or there's always more in the tank, or whatever it is. And then that's just a reminder to like, whoop, come back come back and do my work.
Most of those people, they're here in Seattle. I'm sorry, in Tacoma.
Correct, yeah.
And then are you getting together with a group to go for runs I think you said yesterday you were going.
Yeah, so now at the studio, we do 6 p.m. on Wednesdays, 30 minutes of strength training first.
Of course.
Yeah, and then we either, in the beginning, it's just base training for a month, and then I start alternating between hills and then a tempo or 800s, and then we start throwing hilly tempo. So Wednesday's like your strength or speed work day. And then Saturdays we meet at 7, 30 minutes of strength training, and then the long run. And we just have little coaches who either the caboose, the front, or the middle, and just monitor everyone.
So you're managing a lot of people in terms of you've got people at the studio, and then you've got pacers.
Yes.
Is that right? I didn't even know until I was doing a little bit of research before this. I didn't even know that. What is it called? Pacing?
Super pacers.
Super pacers. But I didn't even know that like a pace setter was a paid position, that you have a company that is a set of pacers.
Yeah.
Explain what that is for people. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have no idea what that is.
So a pacer's essentially a moving time clock. So the runners line up behind someone who's maybe carrying the 4-hour sign, and that's a 9:09 pace. Yes, I know all the paces. And we'll get you to the goal, and we try and hit about 30 seconds under the goal pace or the goal finish time. So it's got to be an experienced runner. You know, a lot of people want to pace. That doesn't mean you're a good pacer. Experienced runner, you can handle any condition. So you pace slower than what you normally run because, gosh, hey,
of course.
There's 40-mile headwinds. You got to still hit your pace. Or, it's 80 degrees and 100% humidity. So you got to give yourself some wiggle room and pace a little slower than what you're used to. Or if it's hilly, it's really fun for someone who's kind of a recreational runner. Oh, maybe we're all professionals. Let's just say we're all professionals. It's a fun way for us to give back. We call ourselves run holes, people who are frequent runners, and then we get to play coach for a day, and get people to meet their goals. And I've gotten so many hugs and high fives, and people are just so appreciative. It takes a work away from the person trying to maybe BQ or PR, which is Boston Qualify or personal record. Yeah, personal record. And it's just a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And the people who pace for us, we're a very cohesive team. And there's other people just show up to pace. There's no camaraderie. I mean, we're really hey, who's going to hit it today? And yeah, we've just really kind of like how I'm out there cheering, jumping around.
Everybody.
We collect those people.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
And so you're managing a lot of people. Mm-hmm. How do you, with 2 girls and now with a new job? Yes. Also, is your job full time?
Yes.
This new job.
Yeah, I have help. I have some assistants now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you learn to manage so well? Is it part of that? See, because then this goes back to.
I know. I'm that's an interesting question.
Well, gosh, it goes back to me being so solo. Mm-hmm. That I like to be. I work from home by myself.
Yeah.
I have people who work with me, my colleagues that I hire, but I'm not a quote unquote team player.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what it comes down to, is that you grew up kind of team studio, so how to, that's kind of natural for you.
So in college, even I was a peer mentor. I was in a sorority and I was the rush cheerleader. People always ask me to be in these leadership positions, so I am kind of used to it. In high school, I was in a what was it called? Some kind of leadership thing. In 5th grade, I won the Ronnie Haynes Good Citizenship Award.
So this comes naturally to you.
Yeah. And then PTA president.
Oh my gosh.
Whatever. I'm just and I kind of thrive in chaos. So even race directing too. I mean, I love when things get crazy and busy and there's lots of things thrown at me. I'm just okay, do this, move forward. Do this, move forward. Let's go.
Do you consider it chaos really, or are you just using that? Yeah,
no.
You're just using that as a term because it's a common term.
An orchestrated, beautiful dance.
Yeah.
How about that?
I would imagine that you see it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really exciting for me. I don't know. I do like that. I thrive in that. When things are just flatlining, I start to go, Okay. I can make this.
We need another dog.
Yeah. Okay. I would love to paint that house. Oh, I could do this. If I bought that, I could flip that. I mean, that's just how my brain works. I'm always like, opportunity. What's this? This is exciting. How can I mess with that?
You don't strike me as somebody like with ADD or ADHD.
No.
It's not that kind of thing. It's just looking for new opportunities. And you see them through too.
Yeah.
You're not looking for the next shiny object and changing focus.
No, I like to grab things and kind of tweak them, make them amazing, and then maybe and then let other people kind of sustain them. I think that's kind of my pattern. And then okay, let me grab this, and then did it. So Dan helps me a lot. Dan, we call Gucci, right?
Whom I met during the Quadzillas. I recognized him from the Quadzillas. Yeah.
So we work really well together, and I want to. Steve Jobs and what's this guy's name? What's the other guy's name? He said I'm the person who's like the thinker and just creates and oversees, and then he's the person who like executes it a little more.
At Apple? Did you say
Apple,
like Tim Cook?
I don't remember their names. If he was here, we'd tell me. But yeah, so we've gotten to be really good at working together. So he helps me with some stuff too. Like he helps with the pace team a lot now too, because I've like put the bones together and built it, and then. Okay, go do this Facebook post. Okay, no, go tell them to do this. So he helps do like the littler things.
The logistics, some of the.
Mm-hmm. As you're asking how I do all this.
Right. And you do.
Because there is only so much time in the day. And sometimes I'm like, oh man, I need like another 5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept that I've been thinking a lot about lately is the number of hours in a day, because my to-do list is always 100 long. There's always something else that I could do. And I've figured out that, newsflash, you can't add extra hours to a day. So I finally have given into that. But you know what you can do? You can feel healthier for more hours in a day, which actually extends your day. Do you know what I mean? I think I would imagine that you operate on this, because there are a lot of people out there who need a 2-hour nap in the afternoon because they had chocolate cake at lunch. And you know what I mean? They they drank too much coffee with sugar or Whoppercino or whatever it is from Starbucks, and then they're actually crashing from it and they can't recover. Yeah. But if you're maintaining a healthier body and mind, I always have to say that too, like if you're maintaining a healthier body throughout the day, you just have more hours in the day. Mm-hmm. You really do.
Yeah, you're more effective, you're more alive and alert. Yeah, my mom always, I don't know how you do what you do. Yeah, I have to change my voice for her, of course. I said, Mom,
she talks like that.
I take good care of myself. I'm not sitting on the couch watching TV all day. And other people ask, how do you do everything? Well, I don't go out and I don't watch TV, so I just keep executing my day, and I enjoy what I do. So I don't feel like I'm working so hard. Some days, of course, I'm not going to lie, they're long and I do work hard.
Of course.
But I love it.
I don't think anyone would question that you don't work hard. but it's the idea of it feeling like work, because it's just life. And I think when we're recording this on a Sunday, when I reached out to you, you said, "Oh, I'll just be working," because that's what I do, just because it all blends in together, doesn't it? When you love what you do, it's just just always, you get a little break on the weekends and you can get to go run a marathon if you want.
But then, after this, I'm like, okay, I got to go do payroll. I didn't finish payroll, and then I got to finish this other expense report, and then off and running at 5:30 a.m. Not me, teaching, and then on the road.
What are your girls like?
What are they like? My 13-year-old, oh my gosh, she's just got the heart of gold. She's super sweet, and she's really aware of people's energies too. It's really interesting. I've watched her watch people, because I pay attention too. And she's smart. She's smart beyond her years, and she's not the typical bratty little 13-year-old. She's very wise, and I think some of it has to do with life experience too, but she was already set that way. She was the baby who would be in the crib for hours and never say a peep, and just kind of content and happy. And then my little one is 10, and she's like a little spitfire. They're both girls. She's kind of like, people say it's my mini-me, in lots of sports, and very artistic, very much into reading, and just always has great questions and always go, 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 go.
Sweet. Do you consider yourself artistic?
I have an art background, yeah. Yep.
So you have an interesting background of like art and
science. I know, and that's like me. Wait, what?
Does it confuse you ever?
No, but I think, I was an art major for a while. I sure as heck didn't fit in with them. And then I switched over to science, and then I didn't really fit in with them. So I'm like, well, I'm just that person, I have a little bit of everything. I wouldn't say I'm a master of one thing. And that's fine. That was just my fabric, I guess.
Has it made you feel like a outcast?
Oh, that's a strong word. Yes. Yeah. But not in a bad way. I think outcast has like a negative connotation to it. I think it's offered me different opportunities because I see things differently. I have the analytical side and then I have the creative side. And sometimes they don't line up, but then sometimes they blend so beautifully.
My husband's like that. He has a painting and sculpture background, but he has spent most of his adult life working in technology.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And so he approaches, he always says like, I'm tired of fixing people's broken shit.
Yeah.
Because they'll bring him into a project and they'll be like, here, fix it, John.
Because they don't have the creative
aspect of it. And he's got the technical big picture approach to it, but then can kind of see, and the positive attitude, which I think so much of it is just having a positive attitude and not, it's broken, I can't stand this, like make it go away. It sounds, you're very much, okay, what are we going to do to make this right?
I think for a while I did try and fit in a box, though. When I went to medical school convention when I was in college, and they tried to convince me. They're like, no, you need to stay with the art major. I'm like, I'm going to switch to biology because that's what everyone does. I tried to just play that like, this is the road. And they definitely said, no, the creative background is actually going to help you. But I didn't
Who said that?
People when I was going to apply to medical school, they said it was actually an asset to be a major in art over biology. They said everyone's a biology major, chemistry major. But it's just interesting, I think, because it's visual too. So chemistry was easy for me. I shouldn't say easy, but I got it.
Yeah.
And they actually wanted me to do research. I was like, oh, I don't think I could sit in the lab quiet. I knew that about me. I'm like, no. Because I would be doing my lab and I'd be like, hey, yo, over there, what's going on? And they're like, oh, stop talking. But I was a person who usually set the curve too.
So you don't seem to care what people think about you. Like when I use the term like an outcast, like if you felt like you were an outcast, and that is a strong term, but it's more like you are very independent and
free spirit.
Free spirit, yeah, absolutely. But you can be a free spirit, I think, and still be concerned about what people think of you.
Yeah.
But you seem to be really like confident and headstrong about how you want to do things.
Yes.
Specifically how you want to live your life.
Yes.
And you don't mind, I'm just projecting, you don't seem to be the kind of person who is going to allow other people to affect you too much, to sway you too much.
No, I think I tried to allow it before because I tried to conform and it just energetically did not suit me. It didn't feel good. I wasn't living my authentic self or my authentic life. I wasn't my authentic self. And it's like, once I started to embrace that and all that aligned, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And this is how we should all feel. This is what we should all be striving for, is our authentic selves, and not judging other people how they do it or what they do, but just like high five them.
How do you find your authentic self?
Oh man, you have to do a lot of soul searching. You have to be willing to look at the ugly, dark pieces and go there. And have you heard of the Phoenix process?
No, I don't know that. I don't think so.
Oh.
It sounds a little familiar.
Yeah.
Explain what it is.
So when you just kind of just absolutely break yourself down almost to the point of just like being done and shattered, and then you can rebuild. And some people get to that edge, so I am divorced, right? So that was my opportunity, and it was a dark time, but I wasn't dark, if that makes sense. But I allowed all those pieces to unfold, to feel the sad, to let my girls be sad with me, and talk through things. And I read a lot of books and ran a lot by myself, right? Like Brene Brown, The Gifts of Imperfection, a lot of stuff like that. I mean, I read and read and read while most people were out drinking. And a lot of people who go through life processes like that fall into other destructive behaviors. And some people were like, well, you're running, that's destructive. Actually, no, this was a really positive thing for me, because I would read, I would soul search, and then I would go run, and I would go by myself, and I would just think and just realign and physically remove myself from my environment and travel or go to a trail or then intentionally put myself around other positive people who are trying to make their lives better. I mean, there's so many people around there, oh, I lost 80 pounds, or, I got out of an abusive relationship and I'm representing domestic violence. My friend Elizabeth does that, stuff like that. Or heck yes, these are the kind of people I want to be around.
Did you ever drink?
Yeah, I did when I was 21, and it was age appropriate.
Yeah,
until I had kids, and then
well, I know 75-year-olds who think that it's age appropriate.
No, that it's fine, if that's what people want to do. But I was with someone who uses it as a crutch, so that was. So
you observed that it just didn't bring you to good places.
No.
I just didn't know if you had experience with it, and then that's why you didn't drink, or you just observed it in others, and that just wasn't appealing to you.
Yeah, I mean, I did drink, but that was way back, and now it just doesn't make me feel good. And my aunt was an alcoholic, and she died, and then my cousin died in a drunk driving accident. So there are definite serious ramifications. And as adults, gosh darn it, don't we have better coping mechanisms?
We're smarter than that.
Behavioral. I mean, nothing good happens after 10 p.m. usually when you're drinking alcohol. Sorry for any.
No, it's a great point. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that out loud.
Yeah, I'm very open with my girls about it. I ask them, hey, well, what do you think about this behavior? Well, what do you think about that? What do you think it does to your brain and your decision making? So that they're aware of situations that they are exposed to.
And we talked a little bit before we started recording about recovery, because I think I read that you ran 100 marathons in 2 years' time. Does that sound about right?
Probably. I did 52 in a year. I usually average between 38 and 45 a year.
How could that possibly be with a family and with a studio that you run? Walk me through how that's even possible. Where do you find your marathon? I have so many questions around that. It's like, where do you, and how about if I just blurt them all out?
Yeah, so blurt away.
Where do you find all those marathons? Because I think even if I look at a list of marathons, obviously with 2 kids and trying to run a business also, or running a business, I would think that they would have to be somewhat close to.
Yeah, most are. I try and find Sundays, right? Because I coach Saturdays. Otherwise, someone has to coach for me on Saturdays.
Where are all these marathons?
Oh my gosh.
One a week?
Oh, have you not looked at the marathon calendar around here?
I do. Well, first tell me what calendar you look at.
Oh, there's a million. And
that's the problem, that there's a million of them. Know. So then I look, and then I just get all confused. I'm like, oh, God,
Yeah, I think I must just be so embedded, and I just know which ones are.
Yeah.
Oh, we just run this one. Like today, there was a marathon, the Sporty Diva. She's a loco gal. She puts on these little awesome tiny events.
How did you find it?
They're like $40, $50. Oh, she's my friend. But she, I think she can do more Facebook ads, or people listening to this podcast. Hey, Sporty Diva. She puts on these awesome events. It's more affordable. But again, there's no frills. You're not going to get aid station every 2 miles.
No, you're not going to have a timing chip on your foot.
So it's just like, what do you want? And I'm happy with big events, small events. I think it's fun to kind of do them all. But for sure, running in the USA Marathon Guide, they have a lot of their stuff up on the calendar. Oregon has a lot, but I mean, gosh, Washington, you don't have to go far as long as you can drive.
I'm totally inspired because I am out running. I ran 20 miles yesterday, and I felt oddly good yesterday. And I felt so good. I'm thinking, should I just go ahead and run a marathon?
See, and that's the point. Like someone like me gets to, it's like, well, I don't want to do 20 miles. I'll just go run a marathon, right? And then, I get to be around all my friends, high-fiving them, checking in on them.
Yeah, the time goes by faster. Mm-hmm. It's nice. It's nice camaraderie.
Yeah, when I do 20 milers, I'm kind of like,
I enjoy it because I run down by Alki Beach in Seattle.
Is pretty.
And I see the same people. I stop and I chat with people all the time.
So that's like your people.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Your tribe.
Neat. Yeah, it is. So let's talk about recovery then after such an event? When I first came over, we're recording at your home. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
for hosting
thanks
me
for
too.
coming over here so I
Appreciate it.
can go run the marathon.
Yeah, no problem. So I came in and I noticed that you were eating a tofu dish, and I asked if you're a vegetarian, and you said,
I'm a vegan.
yeah. So tell me about
And worse, gluten-free.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, well, I don't know. Tell me about...
Well, it's more difficult to eat out, I should say.
Right. Well, tell me about your eating lifestyle. And I'm not... different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
So I'm not militaristic about everybody needs to be a vegan, plant-based, or whatever, although I do think it's healthier for people for many reasons. But tell me why you are, and then let's talk about the recovery aspect of it, because I think it plays a big part in recovery.
So way back in the day, I was vegetarian for probably about 8 years. And then I don't like the texture of the meat. So great. If you want to eat meat, that's all good. I cook meat for my girls. They have ribs and burgers and what's the other one? The bacon.
Yeah.
Oh,
the other one.
Bacon. It's just a preference for me. And then the other stuff is food allergies. Clearly, can't eat egg or dairy. And then gluten, stay away from that. So I love Thai food. So I eat a lot of Thai food, a lot of pho. I eat a lot of almond butter. So I'm known for having a jar of almond butter in my car with a spoon in it. And I just shove it in my mouth because I burn a lot of calories. And I just, quick, need some fat, a lot of calories. If I run ultras, I have an avocado usually. I think the recovery is a couple things. Your body gets used to what you ask it to do over time, which is the training, right? It's the strength training. It's the mobility work. I do yoga. I get my Thai massages. So my body's well taken care of. And then recovery, I usually do the Vega shakes. Have you had those? Yeah. So those are alkalizing. No, they're plant-based, and then there's no dairy.
Do you actually do you use the powder or? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
the powder. So I call it protein pudding. So I don't put a lot of like cashew milk or whatever. Sometimes it's water if I'm out, but I make it thick. Yeah. And then half a banana. It's really delicious. You can make chia puddings with that too. You can make cookies. Oh, yeah. It's really. I found that helped me so much. I almost had no blood protein, and I had a ferritin level of 4 when I discovered all my food allergies. So I was on 3 of those a day. So I went on them for a while. Then I got really sick of them. But I am pretty good about having a sport one, and then they have Vega one. So the sport one has 30 grams of protein, and then the Vega one has more nutrients in it and 20 grams of protein.
Okay. Good to know.
So those are my big go-tos. I will admit I drink coffee.
There's nothing wrong with
that.
No,
I mean some people are like, oh, you drink coffee. It's like, heck yes. I have all these other restrictions. I don't drink alcohol. I always say, I don't drink alcohol. Give me the coffee. And that helps me in my ultras too.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with coffee. I think they're actually saying, to a certain extent, I think they're actually saying that there's good properties in it. So
I think for recovery, the Vega shake right away, and then oh my gosh, the Thai massages, and then just my mobility work. I mean, when I was faster and I didn't do as much strength training, my hamstrings were always, I say, quote unquote, crying. So whatever's hurting you, your body's asking for attention in that spot. And if you continue to ignore it and you continue to just take maybe an anti-inflammatory or some kind of other drug to mask that, you're not going to serve yourself any benefits. So I always say, pay attention. When I coach too, like if something hurts, you got to give it some love. Maybe it's tight. Maybe you need to stick a lacrosse ball. Oh, that's a big one. Lacrosse balls. I carry them around. They're in my glove box or my cup holder under the hamstrings or behind the neck or wherever you kind of need to put it.
So just laying on it or
sitting on it, whatever. And it's so inexpensive. You don't need fancy gadgets. Feet, they're amazing on your feet too.
I have I think the company's called Moji, and it's a little flat. It's flat on the bottom, and then it's got balls on the top. And I just keep it under my desk. And I've got it's not a standing desk, but it's a Veridesk chair that I kind of lean on, and then I just roll my foot over it.
Try the lacrosse ball.
Okay, I will.
Yeah, I mean, when I travel too. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And that's another thing. People do not strengthen their feet.
How do you strengthen your feet?
Let me just throw that one in there. Working out barefoot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So people don't like it at first, but then after a while, it makes a huge difference.
So you're doing your weight training in bare feet. I do.
Yeah.
That's all I do.
Yeah. Yoga. I mean, yoga, most people are barefoot, but yeah, they're like, you want me to do kickboxing barefoot? I'm like, yep. You want me to do HIIT barefoot? We jump. I'm like, yep.
I do. Do you know P90X?
Oh, yeah.
I do P90X barefoot.
That's perfect. You probably have strong feet then.
I probably have strong feet, but I think I'm being really aware of my core and my
posture.
posture.
Look at me. I'm like in my couch, like, oh.
No, I'm like, your posture looks better than mine, and you just did a marathon.
And that's a big thing, too. You know, like in class, I say, you know, you guys did great. Please leave here. Be mindful of your posture the rest of the day. How are you sitting in your car? How are you sitting at your desk? You know, it's those little things that add up that people always think, oh, it's not going to make a big difference. Heck, yes, it is. Even if you have 10 minutes of strength training a couple times a week, even if you realign your posture a few times a day, I can go into the whole fascia thing. We'll save that for another.
I just had a friend over today. She's a fascia. She's a golfer. Yeah, so she's all about the fascia.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. So that's a good.
There was just a documentary. She just introduced a documentary up in Seattle on fascia. I wasn't in town to see it, so I couldn't, but the director was there and everything. Yeah, I'll send you. I'll put it in the show notes too. I'll put all this great information in the show notes, but I'll find out the name of that and send it to you.
Yeah, that would be good. I know sometimes I worry too, like when I'm training people, I don't want to be so much information. People will just shut down. They're like, oh, crazy lady, I don't want to listen anymore. So, and sometimes you have to hear things several times.
Well, you do. And that's also, I think, the importance of having these conversations is if someone hears this information for the third time, it might sink in. Or if they're hearing it for the first time, they're going to hear it just like I told you about the Rich Roll podcast. You said, oh, somebody else just told me about that.
Yes.
You'll hear it again tomorrow, and then you go, gosh darn it, I got to go listen to the Rich Roll podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to go back to something that you said. You kind of slipped it in, but I think it deserves a little bit more diving into. You said your body gets used to, or your body needs to get used to doing something. And in terms of recovery. So the way that I took that, just one little sentence that you said, the way that I took that was you're let's just say you're running 10 miles, you come home, you're exhausted. Next week you go out, you run 10 miles, you come home, you're not quite as exhausted.
Exactly.
So your body gets used to that.
Adaptation.
And then you can increase your miles, feel better after each one. So a person who runs their first marathon, they get wiped out. They go, oh my God, I'm never doing that again. 8 months later, they decide to do it again. They're going to be wiped out again, flat out on the couch. But if you're training, your body gets used to it. And then you're just going to feel better in your recovery. Am I repeating that back?
In theory, yes.
Okay.
If you line up all the other pieces too.
Right. So
you can't run a marathon, go sit on the couch for 8 months and then go run another.
No. That's
the consistency.
Right. That's what I mean is that if you do come back 8 months later without that core training, without that really important training that you're doing, then you're going to just be flat out on the couch again. But if you're training your body, and it's learning how to recover, and you're sleeping better. So for your recovery, and you're doing your yoga, and you're doing your weight training and everything else.
I missed that one.
Sleep is a big thing, huh? I never realized that when I first started working out. And this is really only like 5 or 6 years, 7 years ago now, probably really started working out doing P90X. They would all say, like, you got to sleep because the repair work and the building happens when you sleep. And I did not get that. And now I get that. Now, like, oh, I see. Strength doesn't come when you're in the gym.
No,
the strength comes.
Repair.
It's the repair. It's
and
weird.
I will say I don't like rest days. Those are like I'm crabby. I'm not moving my body. And I know it's good for me.
I know.
So.
I know that feeling.
See, I can admit that.
Yeah, I know.
Rest days are hard. It's hard to get people to rest. And you could tell... You know, like when I get new clients, I'm like, oh, you're going to be the one I have to sit on. Oh, you're going to be the one I have to like shove out of the couch. So you kind of get to know.
Yeah, I've been through that myself. Like, I just ran 15 miles and I'm jealous of the person who's running down the street. You know, like, no, you got to rein it in. And
and it also depends what you're training for. So there's all these like different factors. factors.
Yeah, there are.
And stress. What stress is in your life. See how layered it could be. If you have a lot of stress in your life, your body doesn't recognize if it's physical, mental, so if something's going on at work or your personal life, and then you're asking your body to also like run fast and then run longer, it's just going to be a hot mess down the road. So you have to kind of really be honest about yourself and where you're at in life at that point. And gosh darn it, if you don't make the race next weekend, next month, there's always another one. And people get so like caught up on just this one race. There's so many.
Do you think you are good at managing stress?
Oh, I've gotten so much better. I had so much stress. My mom would always say, I can't believe you didn't have a nervous breakdown. But I think it was because I had the running and the yoga. The yoga was huge for me when I brought that in. Oh my gosh. It's like that, what they call that silent moving meditation, right? And you just look in the mirror and you're supposed to just focus on your posture. And they coach you through that stuff. Like, let everything go. Just be here. Go back to the breath. Go back to the breath. And that was a huge piece for me to bring in because I did have a lot of anxiety. I mean, I moved, I bought this house, I gutted it, remodeled it, started a business.
And that's just, you said you just bought this 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, and I was living in it with my kids. Took over another race series. This other thing went, yeah. So it was a lot, but I knew I could go back to my breath.
No, you brought up running a race series. Are you a race director now? Are you running races?
Yeah, so I have 6 a year. So I work for a nonprofit. It's Foothills Rails to Trails Coalition, and they do Rainier to Reston. Have you heard of that relay?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, so that's amazing. It's grown from 1,000 runners. The first year I took over, it was 1,200, then 1,400, and this year we're already at 1,000, and the race isn't until June 2nd. So that's gone really well. And then there's a half marathon, and then we have the Cascade Super Series, which is 2 marathons and then 2 half marathons downhill.
Over a couple of weekends? Okay.
Yeah. So the half marathons are about 2 weeks before the full. So if you're local, you can kind of go test your legs, get one last little jaunt down the trail, and then come back and run the marathon. In theory, right? Everything's in theory.
Right. In theory. Weather dependent also.
Training dependent.
Yeah.
Lots of things. Or if that's what you want to do. Or if not, you run the half or run the full or do the relay. Yeah, that's really fun too. I love race directing.
I know. I'm excited to check out your races.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, we get very encouraging, I almost said courageous, encouraging volunteers who've run lots too. Great pacers and food at the end. Just lots of fun. The committee or not a committee, the race staff were runners, so we know what the runners want. Pay attention.
More races. Now you've just totally inspired me. So just a couple of other things before we wrap up here. What because you do so many things and you have so many projects and your hands on so many different projects.
Yeah.
And you've run all these marathons and you've done Quadzillas and you've done all these great things and you've qualified for Boston yourself. Have you run Boston?
Yeah, 2 times.
Okay. Oh, only twice.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is your greatest accomplishment thus far?
Well, I have to say my kids, right? I do have to say my kids. Other than that, oh gosh. That's a good question. That's a really good question. I can't really pick one. I think just me feeling finally like good enough to just go on my own was the biggest accomplishment. Biggest and hardest.
On your own in terms of?
Starting my own businesses and just being brave enough to go out and be like, I can do this. And if I don't, I'm brave enough to fall on my face. Because nothing's a guarantee, right? And gosh darn it, you fail your way to success. And what is success? It's relative, right? I think I've just learned so much more along the way, just finally saying, okay, I got me. And if I don't got me, like, we'll see who else is going to come around me and have me. And I think that was a huge moment too. I mean, it's scary, right? To go on your own. Oh, what's going to happen? And then all these people who were there to support and help out. It was just amazing. And I didn't fall on my face.
I found when I went out on my own with my own business, I had the conversation with my husband and said, I know that I can do this. I know you have my back. Like, I know if something goes terribly wrong that you'll help me. Like, just having that confidence. He never had to.
Yeah.
Like, never had to fund the business kind of thing. But having that kind of support gave me the confidence to know that I could move forward with it. It sounds like it was something similar for you, that you had a community or family that would support you if you fell on your face.
Yeah. I wasn't sure, though. I just kind of went out there and I'm like, I'm going to jump off this ledge. Okay, I landed on my feet.
Yeah.
And then I looked around.
Yeah.
Okay, people are still around. Okay, I'm going to be okay.
And they're following me too.
But no, I mean, there was a point where I'm like, okay, well, I'm not married. Okay, who's got my back? Oh, I got my back. Let's go.
Do you think you could have done it married?
No.
Because you didn't have support from him?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. I wasn't supposed to be doing my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think it, is, I don't want to say destructive. Any kind of divorce is pretty traumatic, right?
Course.
But I guess I use that trauma to move forward. Yeah. And that's what I could show my girls too. Life isn't perfect, and I'm sorry, girls, it's not perfect, but let's move on in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm no doubt that you are setting and showing them an incredible example.
I do my best.
So
I love them.
Yeah,
like
kudos.
They're amazing, really amazing. I've learned a lot from them too. I've learned how to be more patient and to slow down. And I always, with everything that's going on too, it's like, okay, how do I get my kid from A to B and here to here? And my family's all in Chicago, and sometimes I'm like, gosh darn it, why aren't they just here? My mom could. Okay, just shut that part of my brain down. My mom's not here. My sister's not here.
When did you move out here?
Oh, gosh. So here, I've been in this area about 12 years.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
And that was after moving around, you said, to a bunch of different places.
Yeah, so I mean, even raising the girls, like, I was by myself. My ex traveled a lot, was gone all the time, worked all week out of town, so I'd be with the babies. All by myself. No, I'm just kidding.
Such a sad song, yeah.
It really is a sad song. That was a hard time in my life. Beautiful, but hard. I mean, I wanted to be there for my girls and raise them and do good for them, but I think I really just, like going way back to the beginning of this, kind of let my dreams go to the side, forgot who I was, and I think that's where all this, like, crazy fire came from.
Exactly.
It's like, whoa, here I am.
Right.
Watch out.
Well, if you had been, I don't want to say allowed, but if you had followed your dreams way back, let's say starting like 20 years ago, it might have been just small incremental things that you've done. And now you've done this like huge explosion and it's like, watch out, world.
Yeah. And it's okay. I mean, it's just my story and my life. And, maybe that'll give someone else hope when they're older, like, oh, I can't do this. Like, heck, yes, you can.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, I'm too old. My friend is in his 60s and he's run over 300 marathons. He's paced over 100.
Oh, my God.
He just ran a 100-miler last weekend, and then he just got his 5th fastest marathon
And
time.
He's how old?
I think, I don't want to quote,
62 or something, yeah.
Something like that. Sorry, Ken, if I got it wrong.
Oh, my gosh, amazing.
And then his son, 16, he's run like over 200 half marathons. He's almost at 100 marathons.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I paced a girl when she was 9 in a marathon. Everyone's like, that's crazy. Well, I'm not her parent. I'm not going to tell her no. I'm there to support her and make sure she gets across the finish line safely. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I've seen the young, I've seen the old, and I've seen everything in between. Walking, running, fast, slow, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I've seen beautiful evolutions. And I love getting the stories of people after they've run their first full. It's like, what was their inner dialogue? And this one gal, Deb, and she's in her 50s. She's like, I never thought like running a marathon would change my life. She's like, it really did. She goes, I feel more empowered. She goes, now I look around at my friends. I'm like, why aren't they taking good care of themselves? I feel so good. I did this thing I never thought I'd do possible. Now it's in my back pocket that I'm kind of a badass. I'm strong. And for her to learn this lesson it doesn't matter when you learn it. She was open to it and she learned it, and she's still evolving as a human. And then she's inspiring her daughters to do more, and maybe her friends. Like, who knows? That's what I love. It's like that pay it forward. Well, if they can do it, then I can do it. And, you get these people who are like, well, I don't look like I could be a runner, or I'm not a runner. I'm like, well, are you running? Yes. Well, you're a runner. It's like, own your stuff.
It took me a long time to own it. I didn't own it until I had a purple toe.
Oh.
And I was like,
isn't it funny?
I think I'm a runner now because my big toe's purple.
Yeah. Oh, no.
I lost my toenail.
Well, I walk some. No, you're running. Like, you're out there. You're out there doing it. Be so happy that you're out there doing it. Yeah, I think just giving yourself some accolades and grace and like all that, it's so important. And like you said before you started recording, you never know who's watching you or who you may inspire. Yeah, I like that when people are like, oh my gosh, you inspired me. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
because then they're going to go and inspire someone else. So it's this whole ripple effect.
And there's a lot more people who are silent being inspired than there are people. Not that you have to verbalize everything to everybody. Yeah. That's not my point. But it's just that there are more people who are silent, who are inspired by seeing other people's actions than the ones who take the time or have a chance to send a note and say thanks or talk about why they're inspired. There's a lot of inspirational stuff going on.
Oh, yeah.
Out there that we just don't know about. I mean, I could never have the time, to sit down and write notes to every person who inspires me. But certainly there's a lot of people out there. You're one of them.
Oh, well, thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, so this is the Be Bold podcast, and I always ask people on the podcast what it means to them to be bold.
To be bold. Ooh, I like that. That's your little thing, right? Be bold.
It is my little thing.
I like that. So I think that you're inspirational.
Aw.
I think to be bold, it means finding yourself. To be okay, like maybe if you're a little different, or if you're doing something that someone says, well, that, like running, well, that doesn't sound healthy. Don't your knees hurt? To just know that, like, you're gonna do your best with the tools you have, and you're gonna strive to always be better.
Hey, speaking of knees, and I wanted to talk about this actually on the podcast, recovery. I briefly mentioned it to you, and then I said, oh gosh, let me just wait till the podcast. The thing that I use for my recovery, it's called, the actual company name is called Marc Pro. I think it's MARC Pro. And it's it's a muscle stimulator, and it's 4 pads. And you plug them into this little machine. Oh,
I've seen those.
Yeah. And so there's 2 pads that have like a low pulse, like boom, boom, boom. And then there's 2 that have like a high frequency.
Yeah.
And then what they do is they bring blood flow to whatever part of body that you're trying to stimulate. Yeah. For me, it's my feet, like my ankles and my knees. And I do that after long runs. And it's like having a massage. And it's amazing.
That feels good.
Oh my God, it is so amazing. There's a number of companies that are doing that now. The Marc Pro is pretty expensive, but there's other companies that are coming out with little, almost ones that are like the size of like a cell phone, like just these tiny little digital devices that are really cool that that you might want to check out. So pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good. Whatever works for you, and sometimes it's placebo. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely right. But I can tell you, it does feel like I have a massage.
Scientific, but some people, they have their rituals. You own your ritual.
Absolutely.
Whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Mine's tart cherry juice.
Yeah.
And,
it's great.
Yeah. Shot of that.
Yeah.
After a run. So anything else that you want to add that we might not have covered?
I think we got a lot of stuff in.
We did get a lot of stuff in.
I sound like I do a lot of things. Thanks for making me sound like a busy person.
You do. You sound like not only a busy person, you sound like an inspirational person who has their shit together.
There we go.
That is like it sounds like you have your act together, and you have a really great outlook on life. And I'm no doubt that your daughters are amazing, and they'll be amazing adults.
They're pretty rad.
Yeah,
They're awesome.
I bet. And that's the important thing. And let people know where we can find you, your studio, any social media handles, anything along those lines. And I'll link to those in the show notes.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of them. I have a lot of websites, a lot of Facebook. So the studio is Super Studios 253. The races is Cascade Super Series. And we also have the Rainier to Ruston is the relay, and then the B&O half. And then I have the Super Pacers, which is really fun. Is that everything?
I don't know. Your Facebook? Are you kind of a public Facebook person? Or?
Yeah, I mean, you have to friend me.
Okay. Twitter? Instagram?
No, I don't. Okay. I'm bad at Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I'm like, well, that's beyond me. I can barely do Facebook these days. But yeah, just my first and last name is Facebook. I usually say, are you a runner? Do you look okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have all the Facebook pages for the races in the studio.
Super. I'll link to all that stuff. I'll get those from you. So
yeah, if I think about those things, I'm like, that's a lot.
It is a lot. I told you it's a lot. It's amazing. And I'm sure you were ready to like totally kick back and jump in an Epsom salt bath or something. And no.
In theory.
Yeah. I know. You'll probably go for another run. I have to get 8 miles in today or 6 miles or something.
You got it.
So
go do resting.
I know. I should go do that. Hey, thanks for sitting with me today and just providing some great information and inspiration to people.
Thank you for being inspirational.
Oh, yeah. Well, between the two of us, Pacific Northwest.
There you go. We're owning it.
No, totally. Take care.
Thank you.
Infectious and inspiring, right? I'm very sincere when I say that conversation really turned my notion of what running is on its head. Man, the only thing that stops us from doing something is our lack of imagination. And if you're just following what's expected of you or what the norm is, you're not going to forge any new paths for yourself or set an example for others. Hey, do me a favor. Please share this episode and the podcast with anyone whom you think might enjoy it. I do really rely on word of mouth to help grow this podcast and grow our audience. With more listeners, that will help me attract more guests. I'd also love your feedback. Like what you hear or you have suggestions, you can email me at beth@beboldpodcast.com. There's also a guest submission form on the website. So if you or someone you know is doing or has done something noteworthy, please fill out the form so I can find you. I do only record in person, but as you know, I travel a lot, so there's a chance we might cross paths. You can find out more about me by visiting wanderlustandlipstick.com. If you feel like being bold yourself, you can join one of our Wander Tours. We have trips to both North and South India that have just recently been announced, so you can join one of those fantastic trips. Both of those are women-only tours, by the way. Or you can come to Africa with me early next year. That includes a trek up Kilimanjaro, a Tanzania safari, and gorilla trekking in Rwanda. One of my very favorite destinations is Papua New Guinea, and I've got space on our August 2018 trip and just announced our 2019 tour as well. Both of those are co-ed. Finally, we have rare space on our Santa Fe culinary tour in June, and that's a women-only trip. Fantastic women only. So if you're fantastic, or maybe you're you're a superwoman, come join us in Santa Fe. You'll find all of those on wandertours.com. If you'd like to connect with me, you can friend me on Facebook, and I'm Wandergal on Instagram. Sign up for my newsletter on the Wanderlust and Lipstick site, and you'll receive a series of tips for making your travels safer. Finally, ladies, you can join us on our Be Bold Facebook group. We've got more than 2,500 members in that group. It's where we share goals, talk about our setbacks, and where you can find words of encouragement and inspiration from others. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Be Bold podcast. And until next time, be bold.